out there in the world. It is just coming up to 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. It is March the 9th, 2022. This is episode 8 of the Mindset Reflexology show, everything psychology and mindset for traders. It's an interesting time in the world as we just count down to 9 a.m. A lot of volatility in the world, oil prices, stock markets, cost of living, particularly with what's happening in Europe. Wish the people of Ukraine the very, very best. But we won't get political on this show. I just wanted to do a quick shout out. But it's certainly an interesting, volatile time in the world. And what today's episode is, as I've titled, what have I been denying about myself that's being revealed in my trading accounts? So let's kick into this. The way trading is often presented to people as they're looking into it and saying, is this a career path that I want to follow? Is what's ignored is the trader's mindset. People get really caught up in saying, this is a probability thing, but if you follow certain rules and if you do all this stuff, everything is going to be fine. Yet what we discover is that mental self-mastery, that's the missing link. So we're going to talk about that today. Plenty of people know how to trade. Actually knowing how to trade is the easier piece of the puzzle. In fact, I often think I could train a monkey on a stick how to trade. Many people have that technical analysis down pat. And there's 1,000 coaches, educators, advisors who teach that really well. There's many different trading systems. So they've got rules, and if we lived in a perfect world, everything would be functional. Everybody would be making money. But, and here's a big but, then performance under pressure exposes the trader's mindset and their belief system. The mindset that they're actually bringing into the moment of managing uncertainty. That's when things blow up. Because ultimately, there's a huge difference between paper trading, where there's no risk, and real trading, where there is risk, real tangible, palatable risk, of where you really are putting real money at risk and you may lose. As a matter of fact, in trading, what you discover is the high likelihood that you're going to lose any given trade. Every given trade is unique and different, and no one knows what's going to happen. So the chances of losing and the chances of winning are there, but we just don't know. It's an educated guess at best. So what you're really doing in trading is you're actually seeing the beliefs that you have about the management of uncertainty, your ability to manage uncertainty being revealed and projected onto the screen, onto the markets. That's what you're really doing. It's kind of like what you find in trading. Once you grasp this and you start noticing that there's a gap between your knowledge and the way you can perform paper trading and your performance under pressure, you begin to realize, aha, what have I been denying about myself that I need to look at and is being revealed in my trading account? That is the key moment of realization of the potential pivot point in your trading. This is the moment to step into active contradiction, as I call it, where your existing beliefs come into conflict with your new trading psychology beliefs. Now, I've spoken about these trading psychology beliefs multiple times elsewhere. I believe in episode 7, I listed 8 core principles. And even I think yesterday or the last couple of days, I've posted about the 10 commandments of trading psychology. Anyway, trading or the trading account, I should say, doesn't lie, but your brain does. If you don't have the trading account there, I guarantee you, your brain will create all sorts of alibis, lies, explanations, stuff like that, that you keep stuck in the mind you brought to trading. So now let's look at the real problem. And the problem is that the mind you brought to trading, which we'll talk about more in just a moment, isn't prepared for trading. When you're paper trading, pretty much what you're doing is you're playing a video game. It's easy to be fearless and emotionally detached in a video game, right? Because after all is said and done, whether you're killed or not, you can always hit the reset button and then you get to go again. You get a do-over. In real trading, the huge difference is there's no reset button, no do-over. Real money disappears from your account. And when you take a loss, it triggers a primitive emotional brain into instinctual responses to threat. And here's the kicker, okay? Ultimately, whether you like it or not, the emotional brain, that which I often call the caveman brain, is your silent partner. And then this is where it gets really crazy, is that emotional brain is looking to solve the problem of short-term survival. That's all it's looking for. It doesn't care how it solves it. And to give you an example, just let's say you take a loss, okay? You take that loss and the next time you take a series of losses. So it's really building up the need in your limbic system to be able to build an emotional response to the threat of loss. And that's the way the primitive brain sees it. It may take several different directions. The first one, an obvious one, is that if it can stop you from getting into the trade itself, it's won. It's not thinking about long-term probability at all. It's thinking about immediate survivability. And if you don't get in the trade risking capital, you're not a threat to yourself, and so it wipes you out. And that would be avoidance of fear. On the other hand, what you can also see is the aggression of anger. You take a loss, you get a little peeved off, you take another loss, you take another loss. All of a sudden, you're going to make your money back, right? You're going to show them. You're going to show the markets and make them pay. What you're really doing, you're saying is, you know, that saber-toothed tiger that's attacking me and my clan, I'm going to make him pay. I'm going to show him. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going into attacking mode. I'm going to use my spears, right? So men and I are going to attack him. That's the way the primitive brain thinks. Now, when you get all grown up, all of a sudden that primitive brain is now trading. When it sees a loss, all of a sudden it's back in caveman days. It's back with a saber-toothed cat. That's what you've got. So the key is, right, okay, I've got an emotional brain, the limbic system, caveman brain, that is going to act on instinct. And that instinct is really a problem. And the solution in an instant where it becomes a habit, right? So that instinctual behavior becomes a real problem and it gets coded and wired into habit. It becomes an automatic habit, a reflex that's running underneath the radar of your thinking brain. We like to think our thinking brain, you know, rules our life and controls our decision make, but under the threat of trading, your instinctual emotional brain takes over pretty much every time. And, you know, your rational brain doesn't even know the thinking brain, sorry, your emotional brain doesn't even know the thinking brain's there. Poof, it's just like that. So ultimately, the very first thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to learn how to intervene and cool down the circuits of that caveman brain, redirect the emotional flow. Now, I teach emotional regulation as part of this because what we know is that an emotion itself is biological. From the neuro standpoint, an emotion is what is called a biological action potential, BAP, biological action potential, and has nothing to do with psychology. It's a biological action potential that takes over the mind in its attempt to coordinate action with the environment, to stay alive in the environment, okay? That's how the brain works. That's how biological action potentials work. So you've gotten that and you say, right, the first thing is I have to regulate that emotion. To do that, we focus on breathing as a function of the emotion and on muscle tension as a function of the emotion. In what is generally known as the relaxation response, you can look that up. I think it was Herbert Benson way back who came up with that phrase, the relaxation response. What you learn is you can disrupt the stressor, you know, the threat. So it's, oh my God, I might lose, or I have to make up for prior losses. You can disrupt it and you can say, guess what? I can supply the relaxation response instead. It's, you know, it's done via diaphragmatic breathing or bellows breathing as it's called. That is what you can use to calm down. Anger and fear require a restriction in the way you breathe to direct oxygen to the upper part of the lungs and restrict oxygen to the major organs. That's delivering energy to your muscles and draining it away from your brain in order to prepare you for fight or flight. That's what happens, right? So it's not a psychology, it's a biology of emotion that takes over. It takes over the mind. But that's only the start, my friends, and it's not nearly enough. What's required next is mindfulness. So we have emotional regulation, then we have mindfulness, where you literally begin to build the observer of the self. And what you discover in mindfulness, right off the bat, is that you and your thoughts are not the same. You are not having thoughts. They are actually having you. You don't have beliefs. They are having you and creating your experience. Now, I'll repeat that. I really, really want that to sink in. You don't have beliefs. Beliefs have you, and they create your experience on a moment-by-moment basis. Now, that's the deal, okay? You begin to observe that, and you begin to say, wow, what I am is a particular organization of my potential that the limbic system created as a surviving force in the environment. Yep, that's it. And it did a great job in another time and another place. But the problem in trading in particular is that trading is a bad place to use the certainty of survival as the basic modus operandi. It has to become a probability-based mind, and therein lies the trouble. You're taking your brain in trading into its worst nightmare over and over and over. You're taking a brain that's built for certainty into one of the most uncertain environments possible, which is trading. It's a nightmare for the brain. So you have to become probability based. But the thing about mindfulness, right, and the observation is you begin to see at the self, the thing that we call us or me or I is actually just an organization of your potential that was done in another time, another place for short-term survival. And it's done a great job. It was a core differentiator for, humanity that gave it an evolutionary edge and allowed humans to prosper in that environment. Now it's hooked into all of our habits on an instinctual level. It automatically fires without thinking brain approval, and it wipes out the thinking brain. It takes over your psychology. It takes over your reason. And there you are making all those dumb, stupid mistakes that you say, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? This is a probability game. Why can't I just stick to my plan? Why do I keep doing these crazy things? Well, nobody told caveman brain that, and he is not listening, or she's not listening. So what we really want to do then is we begin to see the self as potential. And what we're recognizing is that potential got shaped in a particular way that we need to deconstruct so that we move the self back into this moment of being where you begin to be the designer of the mind you're building to engage uncertainty. Now, that's where it gets really interesting. Now, is this natural? Hell no. Of course not. If it was easy and natural, there wouldn't be a 95 to 98% fail rate in trading, right? But is it possible? Yes. But you really, truly have to begin to say, well, what are these potentialities? What is possible? Well, let's have a look at a couple of things here, right? And the way I teach this is in the organized self that you are, that you bring to trading, right? What we're looking for is fear-based thinking, anger-based thinking, greed-based thinking, and particularly lust-based thinking. You would know lust, not like the intimate arousal kind of lust, but you would know it as jumping into things, right? Wanting money. And you really begin to say, oh my God, I just had so much. I just jumped into trade, right? Yep, lust. That's it. You just wanted it. You wanted to make money, and you were triggered to jump in to things impulsively. So what we're saying is, okay, it's not natural, but this is what nature did to me. It allowed me to survive, but it's not allowing me to thrive in a probability world. So we want to reorganize the panel of the mind, right? That task force we all have in our head. And what I ask of you, whether you are an experienced trader, a pro trader, an aspiring trader, or just someone who's interested in your potential, your mastery of your potential, is to begin to think of your mind as not as some singular unit. We've all had that experience of that inner commentary, our inner critic, that's just sort of yakking in the background, having opinions, having assessments, mostly negative, about potentialities. Well, that's part of the mind, but it's not you. It's just part of the current organization of the mind. That's one element, one committee member of that mind. But there's so much more. Now, besides the limbic ways of anger, fear, lust, and greed, there's also potential to organize the mind around discipline, courage, self-soothing, and around impartiality when exposed to stress. That's the task force we want to create and utilize in trading, in engaging uncertainty. And you can do that. There will always be a struggle, okay? Nothing can change about that. I mean, when I hear, people in the trading and the financial industry talk about parking your emotions and, removing the struggle and removing those old beliefs, I say bunkum to that. It's not about removing the struggle. It's about mastering the struggle, okay? Nothing can change that. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be the challenge of winning and losing. However, what you can control is the mind you bring to the engagement of that uncertainty. This is the struggle, is to change the mind, bring to the struggle of uncertainty, not to change the uncertainty. That's where most traders get it wrong. So they think somehow that they can influence the market, which of course can't. What you can do is influence the mind that you bring. Now, past memories, past experiences will always present themselves, but we are going to train our brain and the mind that it generates to redirect to a new task force, a new reflex. That's essentially mindset reflexology, which is, of course, what I teach. Now, always there will be challenges, whether in trading or in life, there will always be challenges. There will be challenges you can't control the outcome of, but you can control the mind that engages them. You can control the performance mind that leads to the probability-based mind. This is the future. You can start building a future self. There is no restriction on age, time, any sort of background factors for you as a person. There is no limit. You can start building a future self, a potential self that is very radically different in the way that it approaches uncertainty. So you can have that old historical mind, the one that brought, that is not going to work in trading, or you can build a new potential mind, okay? That's the future, if you choose it. It's not going to happen overnight, but with training, you can see the future. It takes work, right? You've got to want it. You've got to intentionally choose it and do the work. So you can start organizing yourself for that future, organizing the mind for that future. And before you know it, you have habituated those responses to uncertainty rather than the historical ones that evolution gave you. You have become a designer of the self. Now, of course, I invite you to come and see the trainings that I provide to really look at it in greater depth, to take this deeper, and to really begin to see, oh, this is about recognizing who I am in the current form of the self, and then reorganizing who I can potentially be when I learn how to rebuild the self. That's where it's at. That is the secret. That is where it's at, right? So that's what we're talking about, okay? As you move into this new year, what is it, March? It's well past the new year. We're moving towards the middle of the year. I ask you to really begin to think about, this is really a mind state, and really building it so that it's built for uncertainty. And the really exciting part is you can do it. And to recognize that's the difference between knowledge and actual experience and performance, about operating functionally from the new self, not just the romanticism of thinking about it and trying to convince yourself and your brain to make the change. And that takes time, effort, and discipline to install, okay? So all the knowledge in the world isn't going to get past the instinctual nature of your emotional brain. It has to be trained, but you can build a new potential self rather than the one that you got stuck with to bring into trading, no matter how successful it was in the past. It's always your choice, my friends, and I hope you are really, really intrigued and curious about the potential and the possibilities of becoming the designer of the self. This is a great revelation that it is not just possible, but it is doable, right? So if you want to take it further, please come and explore, my website, the YouTube channel, reach out for a chat to talk more about how this actually works, right? And start thinking to yourself, how do I develop a new potential self? Now you're talking. All right, take care. Have a fantastic day or evening, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, stay well, and happy trading.